I went to my special little spot not far away from my house, but there's a creek running through the woods and just off of a trail. So you get to actually go off the beaten path a little bit, some side trails, and I actually took some Shungite infused that I made and put a couple.
Nice.
Yeah. Go out there and record some sound samples.
Oh, that's a great idea. You can go play your flute there.
Yeah.
Some music.
Get those online and have a nice little backdrop of the creek flowing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, I hope we're broadcasting live. We should be on YouTube, on the Metaphysical Perspectives YouTube channel. So welcome everybody to Shungite and Energy Tools. I'm Derek Condit, Julissa Helms.
Hello, thanks everyone for being here.
And go ahead if you.
Well, most people, we have a little printout for those people here in person. And
Oh yeah, we
Derek's
should
also,
mention that.
Yeah, Derek shared this online as well. So under our website, mysticalwares.com, you'll see a Shungite FAQ page that we're still actively building and adding to. So on here, we have Shungite water, Shungite powder, Shungite nuggets. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different energy tools and a lot about Shungite. So did you want to?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, we did just update, again, as she said, the Shungite FAQ page on the website. So it's got a lot of this printout that you can't read if you're watching this remotely. But no, we're going to be, as typical, all over the place tonight, talking Shungite, energy devices, Orgone devices also. They go by lots of names. So we got lots of props out here, a lot of them Shungite, but then they kind of cross from Shungite into energy tools once you add another ingredient, be it a copper tree or rocks and crystals or little Sasquatches. So no, let's just jump on in. Was there somebody you wanted to?
Well, should we first talk about Shungite water and the,
Sure.
the water beads that we have? So you can't see them on camera, or it might be a little small, but it kind of looks like they're 3 Shungite beads, and the way we wire wrap them with 925 sterling silver wire, it looks kind of like a triquetra, so it's like 3 of them. So there's something about that numbers with 3, 6, 9, and you want to go in?
Oh sure, yeah, I can expand a little bit on that too. And again, we do call these the Shungite water beads, so they're an energy device. Shungite, of course, and a lot of this information in the scientific studies will be found on our website under the Shungite FAQ. And we've actually republished the scientific documents, the patents, the studies, depending on which one it is. But Shungite has an effect on water, and I'm gonna paraphrase a lot of the studies and just get into the gist of it. But it's called structured water or living water. When you do what's called homeopathy of water, so if you have a glass of water and just send a love intention to it, and you don't have to hold it to do that, you can. But you also have the same effect when you literally drop the Shungite water beads, which again are 3 Shungite 10mm beads wound with silver wire, drop directly into your water pitcher or cup, and then it will structure it or make it turn into what's called living water. So when you're drinking living water, if you take the time to structure it or have it structured by Shungite, or again, you don't have to have Shungite, you can homeopathy, you can send your intention to it, that water will become more bioavailable to you as an individual. So I'm saying, literally, and it's not just water, it doesn't stop there, because you can have a meal, your food as well, and have the loving intention. So literally imagine love around it, and that can be in the form of a color or a picture in your head or something like that, or generate a feeling. And on the molecular level, those water molecules will align for you as an individual. So when you drink the water, you'll absorb about 90% of it and excrete about 10. And if you don't do that, meaning don't put the intention or turn it into structured water or Shungite water, it's going to be the opposite. You're going to absorb maybe 10% and excrete about 90%, which is why most of us are dehydrated, regardless of how much water we drink. And again, those are physics studies. So it can be a glass of water, a cup of milk, whatever it is, a steak or a vegan salad, whatever. There are water molecules in all of those items and everything else that are programmable, and you just have to realize that. So again, it's very important to structure your water because you want living water, or M-state water it can also be called.
So we're over 70% water, so water is very important for us, and we're all dehydrated, especially from our foods. Everything just keeps us dehydrated, or we're having to get our daily coffees, and we just end up forgetting to drink water. So it's important, but before I was introduced to Shungite, so when I drink water, like even if it was filtered, it would still have like a metally taste, and I wasn't really sure why. Water had taste to it, depending on where you got it from. You go to California or Vegas and it kind of tastes like dirt, right? So water had different tastes to me, but here it always tasted kind of metally, even if it was filtered. If it filtered, then it tasted kind of like the charcoal or the filters in it. It has a flavor. But sometimes I would like be so thirsty and I could feel like the water sitting in my stomach, and then you kind of get that sloshy feeling, and I was like, oh, whatever, it's just water that I'm trying to drink, my body's not absorbing it. But I didn't know that my body wasn't absorbing it. And then fast forward to meeting Shungite and introducing it to my water, I'm like, oh, water tastes kind of softer now, and it doesn't have that metally taste. And now I haven't had that feeling of water sitting in my stomach. I'm like, oh, because I'm actually absorbing it. Who knew?
That's funny you bring it that soft. So there's water softeners that many of you have probably heard of, different ones that do that, but it does. It tastes soft. It's an odd thing to say, or to talk about water, but it really is. Yeah, it makes it soft. And then yeah, your body identifies it as water, so it's going to absorb it. It's not going to hold it back in your stomach with all that sloshing around. But also take the time. It doesn't have to be the Shungite water beads that we keep talking about here. It can be Shungite nuggets. We have some here. So just do raw, regular. I would not recommend using the elite or noble Shungite. I don't have a demo piece up here, but it's a little shinier and tends to shard as well. So meaning if it's going to be in a water bottle or a glass, and if it bounces around or moves, you don't want little particulates to come off and ingest in those. And then you only need one. So the magic behind Shungite, of course, is the carbon-60 molecule, or the buckyball or fullerene, the molecular shape that's contained inside of it. You only need one, and there are who knows how many in each piece of Shungite. So then it's also not a volume thing. You don't need a large piece of Shungite like this one we have wrapped in a copper tree here. Drop that in your water, meaning it's extra strong. No, makes no difference. One of these little guys in this bag that you can't quite see is large enough. Because it's all frequency. You don't need a large radio, a big old boombox from the 80s to hear music and have everybody take part in it in the building. You can have a little tiny one as well and still hear the sound and or benefit from the frequency. So it's not a volume thing. And then again, what I was talking about is you can put the nuggets directly in your water as well, and or your animal's water. We have people that sometimes do, so exactly opposite of what I was just saying, the larger chunks for, say, horse troughs, cattle troughs on the farm, things like that, because the small nuggets can get lost pretty easily. So we do have a lot of people using the larger chunks as well. But again, it's for just ease of finding and not losing the nuggets.
So there's a lot of like contradictory information out there, like with the elite or the noble Shungite, and so it is more expensive. It's shiny, it's pretty, but it's more fragile and can shard and break off, like he was saying. But they also say that it needs to be replaced like every 3 months, and well, it's not absorbing those energies like coal or charcoal does. Like that's why it's being used in filters. So you want to talk a little bit more about the
sure.
carbon content? Because I think that's what, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people mistaken. They think of when they see, because yes, Shungite is a carbon-based mineral, but they often compare it to charcoals and things like that that are put in water that are real porous minerals that will have little pockets or bubbles that catch particles, just that. Shungite's not doing that. It's attenuating energies. It's literally, it's going to sound crazy, making the water feel better. It's taking the edge off, because we all know energies make a difference on us. We have feelings, we have emotions, and it's all energy. So those same, sometimes non-cohesive energies or energies that don't feel right is, again, there's lots of ways to describe these things, so I'm going to have to take some leeway here and just, kind of be vague, but they just don't feel right. So Shungite has an effect on that energetically, and it's called the Orgone energy field if you're a scientist. We can call it loving energy from the metaphysical perspective, but it does have an effect on that. So, and also, like I was saying, you don't need a whole lot of it, and it's instant. So once you drop the Shungite or Shungite water beads in your water, it's not a time thing, it's not a 10-minute wait or anything like that. It's all frequency. When you turn on your radio, it's there right away because it's all always here. And then as far as resetting it or clearing it, Shungite is kind of like I like to describe it like a tree. So it's called, when you go and grab a tree and hug it, it's called earthing or grounding, and it removes excess electrons. Shungite is continually doing that regardless if it's in Orgone device form or a nugget or a water bead. So it's not holding on to those energies, so there's nothing to clear. And it doesn't need to be put in the sun or buried or anything like that. It continually moves what we call Orgone energy or living energy.
So Shungite, it contains this soccer ball shape. It's a C60 molecule or buckyball, soccer ball. So it's sacred geometry. And then Derek will have to get a little bit more sciencey explaining more about that. But basically it's a pattern of pentagons and hexagons. So with everything has a basic spin to it. So things that are more compatible for our bodies spin clockwise. Things that are not as compatible spin counterclockwise. So our energy is supposed to flow throughout our bodies a certain way. You can think of planets. When they go retrograde, that means it's like spinning backwards and everybody's like, what's going on, you know? So basically this is always moving. It's always moving forward. It's always going clockwise. And you want to expand on that then?
No, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. No, it's, especially the planets and all of that too, and the different ways of looking at this. So I actually like to get this understanding across on why this soccer ball shape, or again, buckyball, fullerene, C60 molecule. This has been shown and proven by physicists during different studies, but this molecular shape, again, just think of it as a soccer ball shape, holds, if you could see with your actual eyes, and you can't, you'd have to use a microscope, but it holds one water molecule perfectly within this shape with no room for anything else. So if I could grab a water molecule, kind of throw it in there, it'd kind of fill up that space perfectly. And that's not random, that's not a mistake of the universe. So what I'm saying here is, this is you can kind of think of it as a metaphysical or invisible etheric container that was built for water. Well, in this reality, what are we? As Julissa mentioned earlier, we're 70 to 80% built of water. So is our environment, the space around us. So it's all programmable. And just knowing the shape is kind of like the container. I tied into some cooking analogies saying you might want to make soup in a bowl or a pot rather than on a plate. So again, something that'll hold that form. So again, no mistakes of the universe. So this molecular shape holds one water molecule, and because we're water entities, or we're having a physical experience in a water body or vehicle, if you take the time to imagine yourself, using your imagination because it's real, and it's going to be hard to get across on video, but about half the size of that soccer ball or buckyball shape inside. So yes, literally imagine yourself in there with that container around you, just filled with whatever you imagine love is. And that can be a color, a frequency, a sound, if there's a certain sound you associate with that. And then literally having this intention, or using your imagination and imagine yourself in this container of love, you're gonna have an effect on your auric body or energy body. So then I would suggest, once you realize, well, wait a minute, the right container for the right job, a water being in the imaginary realms, well then I would suggest, and I do it, I imagine myself already healed. Not the act of healing, but being healed, because, this is for a different class, but because there is no time, there's no reason any of this should take time. So again, you can imagine yourself healed in this container and shape, and you're gonna have an effect on your physical body and aura body. Again, that's part of our healing class, but I did want to elaborate a little bit more into that molecular shape on why it's so important.
And it's not about like size or quantity, like you had said. It's just like talk a little bit about the powder and how this can be used. I like to put it in my garden or in my plants, and that has a tremendous effect. We also have like Shungite paint, or you can add it to paint. We have the fine Shungite powder that's mixes better if you're going to be painting with it. But so with numbers, so 3, 6, 9, if you have these groupings, like when we tumble our Shungite in silver, we'll talk a little bit more about that too. It's been tumbled for 3 days. So if you're using a powder, can you imagine like how many different groupings of like 3, 6, 9s that you can get in that little tiny amount? So a little bit also goes a long ways, especially working it with your intention and what you're planning on doing it. And of course, all in love.
And you don't have to act, so when she's talking about powder in the 369, you don't have to take, she's not saying, oh, look through the powder and grab 3 little particles and put it, no, use your intention, your imagination. 90% of this reality is invisible. It's off the visual spectrum. It's what contains our imagination and feelings. 90% of this reality. 10% is physical, this body, these trinkets around us. So get in the 90%. So use your imagination and intention on powders, or again, structuring your water like we're talking about. And that's going to be the lion's share of the energies. Again, using those metaphysical ones. The powder is a great idea. And Julissa had mentioned the fine powder. And we don't have all the different types up here, but again, on video, it's all going to look the same anyway. But just a fine powder, kind of, some of them are the texture of, say, a salt. Some are a little bit coarser. The fine powders, again, you can blend with paint, mix in the paints, use them on things like beehives or in your own rooms, in your environment. And you don't have to be an energy worker to feel or realize the benefits of a Shungite environment, because we all have feelings, we all perceive energies. We just may not all share the same language on describing it, but we all have an effect because we're energy beings as well. So yes, you can take the Shungite powder, blend it with paint your bedroom walls, or if you're an energy worker, Reiki master, something like that, do the same thing. And it clears energies in that space. Or, as Julissa also mentioned, you can use the powder and or nuggets and spread them in your plants or gardens. And some of these studies are on our, again, Shungite FAQ page, where it's been documented, everything from cucumber plants to other types of plants, even our own mullein. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. The mullein plant that we had outside, we shared those images, grew 10 times the size it should be, and all we did was put Shungite in it, and then we watered it with Shungite water. So you can really benefit any living entity, be it plant, animal, human, whatever, with the addition of Shungite. It moves energy. So there's lots of benefits to it.
So even if you didn't have Shungite, and now you have this information, and we're all energy workers, we're all aware of what our intention can do and the power of that, well, tap into the Shungite Grid and, play with your imagination and be like, oh, you can even look that up. That's not quite yet on our website, but we're going to be building that as well. But if you Google Map
that's Shungite Grid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can see all the little markers like around the world of all the people that have just marked themselves as having put Shungite in that location. And so it's pretty vast amount, and we can work with it to our advantage. Of course, like I said, all in love, all things moving forward. I mean, Shungite's always moving in one direction, so you can't go wrong. And things that get near it, it breaks it apart. Mm-hmm. So like even Derek did a roundup under a microscope. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so what she's talking about is we have a high-end HD video microscope. So we actually have a microscope where has an HD video camera, so we see it in real time as well. And I took a sample of Roundup or glyphosate, weed killer, and under a slide, and these videos, we'll re-share them online now that we're talking about them again, because I'm not sure where they're hidden, but we'll get them back on there. But you can actually get Shungite near it, and you'll see it actually trying to move away from the Shungite, or Shungite actually, I don't know what the term would be, but breaking apart the harmful energies and or structure of glyphosate. And you can see it's all in real time on the slides or the video clips we've made. So it has a real effect, and on these same studies that, again, you don't have to believe me, you can read them on our website, because we republish a study, I'm not just telling you about it. Glyphosate, Shungite has an effect on glyphosate, Roundup, weed killer, and also fluoride, and different other rad particles, which is radiation particles as well. So lots of different harmful substances Shungite will have an effect on, regardless if you're using it in your water or carrying it around you as well.
Yeah, but Shungite, it just feels good. Like once I met it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have my hands on. I have to have Shungite. It just felt good. It was comforting, and now I don't go a day without it just because it just I don't feel right not having it. But having it on your body is pretty important.
And I was going to say on the inverse too, there is for some individuals that maybe have an excess abundance of, I'll just call it excess energy as well. You're gonna, when you first touch Shungite, you may feel a little bit off, or you may feel like a charge to it or something like that. You can think of it as an energetic detox. So you're actually kind of doing a high-end grounding or earthing. Again, just moving the SS energies around you. It's not a bad thing. You'll even out from it too. Because I have a piece of that, what we call cosmic shungite. This is a nugget, but we have it in pendant form, and that ties into what Julissa was mentioning as well. We do tumble some of the shungite nuggets in a tumbler here on premises, and it's a hexagon-shaped tumbler. There's a whole sacred geometry or platonic solid example and description behind that as well for another class. But we tumble it in hundreds of little tiny, and we're still talking about the shungite nuggets, so this is an example of a pendant form that Julissa wrapped. But these nuggets are tumbled in a tumbler for 3 days of hundreds of just little tiny silver bars, and that gives you can kind of think of it as a biocompatible frequency. These silver particles, and we put this under the microscope too, the actual cosmic silver nuggets, and you can see the particles of silver that have embedded themselves in the shungite, and on the and it's embedded into the shungite as well, because silver migrates. It's why they don't use pure silver or gold on circuitry boards or computer chips. They'll use different versions of it because the metal, silver and or gold, will actually walk along lines of energy and move. So on chips, the lines will move, and that's kind of a problem. But in our case, it's a good thing because the silver will migrate in and around the shungite, now turning it into a kind of an enhanced energy device. Because silver, which is also why we wound the silver wire around the shungite beads for the water beads, it kills harmful bacteria, viruses. It has all sorts of good effects physically and energetically, and we then transfer those effects and frequencies into the shungite nuggets, cosmic ones. So they're good for energy workers, healers, again, affecting your own aura. Was there anything you wanted to add on to that?
Well, with the silver, it's like there's colloidal silver, and then there's like silver burn creams. So silver is compatible with us as well. It has a healing frequency. So you have love and healing frequency working together.
Yeah, and then the blend with shungite just makes it hugely more, I'll say biocompatible and available. So we take that same shungite and silver powder, so it's a blend, and we can get it in powder form as well. We call it S4 or Cosmic Shungite Silver Powder online, and blend it into things like this is a piece of rubber, not too dissimilar from, say, a mouse pad or something. And being in this form makes it a whole lot more convenient to, say, wrap around your arm, your leg, or to sit on big car trips or something like that, or to use as coasters and things. But it's another form of getting that shungite around you. We have the same shungite and silver powder blended into small little containers, little bowls, different devices, even what do we call them? Shungite animal totems. So this one's the head of a dragon. So yes, it's an energy device. This is a resin, so a plastic blend, but blended within it, so it would have been clear, but we added so much shungite and silver powder that it's turned black. And this just being in your energy environment has an effect. Again, it's similar to having a tree or even a big boulder or rock that's continually moving energy around you. So it's kind of like an etheric fan. Again, it can be some crazy dragon-shaped head or a bowl or just any other device. Even something like a shungite palm stone where we laser etch the word healed and or love into it. That's a frequency. So you can take these energy devices, put them in your pocket, put them in a little pouch. You can literally put them in your water if you want, and it's going to continually move energy being made of shungite, but with the addition of the frequency of love and healed being laser etched into there. So you can get creative with this. You can put them in your plants as well.
Should we backtrack a little bit about how where's shungite beehives and
Sure.
all the way back to your introduction to shungite and how you came across it and met shungite and decided to use it?
We can. I don't know how much of that I've ever put out. It was, I'm going to have to say maybe 2015 or 16 is when I first came across shungite. And it was all intuition. I was led to it online. I wasn't talking to anybody, didn't know about it. And then following intuition, I know this isn't an intuition class, but we all have gut instincts or intuition. We're all intuitives. Listen to what your inner self is telling you. And I did, and I did some research online, started typing different phrases into search engines, and all of a sudden, a black rock came up named shungite. So then I followed my gut instincts or intuition and researched that more and looked online. And then also, when I first saw a piece of shungite online, and we're all energy sensitives, it actually had an energetic effect to me. I perceived it energetically just by seeing the visual of it. So that's how I first realized it was a thing and highly energetic. And then I basically ordered some and went from there. And there's, again, probably a couple shows I've done on that. But being an organic beekeeper as I am, and again, we'll expand more of this on the website in the coming weeks on the Shungite Beehives page. But I started integrating Shungite with the beehives due to colony collapse disorder and whatnot. Everything from the paint that we talked about earlier, painting the exterior of the beehives, because then you can think of that as a type of Faraday cage, similar to what I was talking about with energy workers. You don't have to be a quote energy worker, and all of us are, like I said. So then you can paint your own environments with Shungite paint as well, be it your bedroom. And then you're gonna move energies. And then hang on though, because imagine your dreams in this highly energetic environment. They get more active is what I'm saying. But you don't have to go to the extreme of painting your room. You can, so I'm wearing it's hard to tell, but a Shungite bracelet here as well. This one happens to be Shungite and Mukite, our cosmic Shungite version, cosmic silver version. But really any of it can be used. I don't know how much you wanted to get into the beginnings.
Well, for me, so my mom was talking about Shungite. She had heard about it on some alternative radio station about it was being used to help clear up the radiation after Fukushima. So she was like, Miha, you have to get your hands on some Shungite. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I was like, all this radiation. I'm like, yeah, it's already coming over here. There's only so much that we can do about that. You know, can't stress or worry too much about that. Just do what we can with what we have. And she didn't have Shungite either. So she's been talking about this. I'm like, well, how? I don't know. And I hadn't done like any research or tried to find it. And then one day she was like, look, I have Shungite. And it was a little pyramid. And she's like, research, look up Nancy Hopkins. And I found Nancy Hopkins. And then I ended up finding Derek and just kind of like he was talking about, go with your gut instinct and your intuition. How does it feel? Does it feel right? Decide, is that something that you'd like to introduce and try out? Like, are we all, how do we feel like with our health? Is there something that we can change? I'm like, I think most of us feel like there's things that we are consuming, things that we are drinking, things in our environment that we can't really help, but like, what is it that we can do for ourselves to benefit from it? And so, yeah, I got my hands on Shungite, and then I was like, oh, it's being used in water, and but that was before the Shungite water beads came into effect, because you were still, you're just building it and bringing it, introducing it. Yeah, so.
Yeah, we keep finding, it's not just us, finding different uses for Shungite, because again, the beauty of Shungite also is it's not that it has to be scientifically proven, but it is on many levels, different ways. So that's why I keep talking about the studies and the different patents that have been taken out and the documented results of it. So then we started coming up with different devices. Again, so this is just like a little paw print, hard to see, but it can be used as a keychain or a dog or a cat tag, for the call it. Again, get that Shungite, and in this case, it is a resin one, so it has the benefit of silver in it. And being Shungite powder with silver blended into a resin doesn't make it any weaker or anything. It just makes it into a more convenient form if you want, say, in this case, a little paw print for your animal. Or things like Shungite magnets. So it's an easy way to get Shungite on a metal surface rather than taping a nugget to it or something like that. So there's lots of different ways we're using it, as well as, of course, many of you have heard of Shungite Honey. So it's organic honey, honey being the planet's best antibiotic, antimicrobial, antiseptic. There's lots of good qualities to it, and then we've added the benefit of Shungite to it. And I should grab it again, because also it wasn't lost on us as far as the shape of the jar being a hexagon. There's a reason that honeybees in their honeycomb make the hexagon shape, if you didn't know that, in a honeycomb. So they're called a frame that's set inside of a beehive that the bees put their honey on. They're made up of just thousands of little hexagon shapes, and that's not a random shape. The bees realize that it holds energy, which is, again, ties into the C60 molecule. Little hexagons and then pentagons, the 5-sided ones, hold energy well, structure. So there's lots of uses and reasons for that, and we've got other devices. Again, we've talked about the bracelets. It's all about having Shungite in your energy field or aura, so that energy moves and you heal yourself. I don't know if you want to talk about any of the other...
Well, so the C60 molecule, there is also man-made C60. Is that what it's called? Or?
They're called C60 molecules. Some of them, they have different products they'll put out there. Some of them actually taken the name C60 and worked it into their product's name. But it's a molecular shape is what they're referring to.
Yeah, so I've always been more natural, organic minded, and of course I want to use a natural product over man-made as much as I can. So not saying too much negative stuff about that, because I'm sure it's great. But then it's like, okay, well, energy device, and all these people have had their hands on it before it got to us, and so.
No, it's making a good point, something to think about. So if you have an energy device made somewhere else, and you don't know what energies are happening there or the process happening, it makes a difference. Because let's use water for example. Let's say you have a water bottle and it's traveled from A to B to get to you. What frequencies, what cell towers, what kind of emotion was that driver, let's say it traveled on a truck or train or whatever, he or she was in. All of those have an effect on to one level or another. So regardless, and you're not going to know when you get your water bottle, if that's where it comes from, you put it in here, what energies are in there. So love it no matter what, so that it aligns to you. That's crystalline, it's water, it can be programmed. So just realize that everything comes pre-programmed. So appreciate, love your water, and remember any other liquid you're drinking. It'll make a big difference, and food as well.
So Shungite's found in Karelia, Russia, but now they're saying that there's other deposits that have been found, but we don't know too much about these other places yet, because this is from Karelia, Russia, and it's called Shungite because it comes from Shunga.
Shunga, the province in Russia.
So if you find Shungite from like a different country, well then it's not necessarily Shungite because it's not coming from Shunga.
No, that's a good point. They have found different deposits of what they're calling Shungite, which is a black mineral substance. And some of them have some C60 molecules to one degree or another, but it's not Shungite, hasn't been tested. There's a lot of artificial stuff coming from different countries. They're pressing it. A lot of it's just charcoal. They're getting charcoal dust, pressing it in different shapes, etching little geometry shapes in there and telling you it's Shungite. You can test Shungite. We built a video. It is, again, on our Shungite FAQ page, where you can take your cell phone and actually just take the Shungite nugget, not the resin type, but a solid piece, even these like palm stone ovals, and put it on the surface of your phone, and it should have a response. Shungite's the only known mineral, unrefined, that will have an effect on energy and or conduct electricity. So you can also, in this video I'm referencing, or trying to tell you about, that's available on our website, you'll see my hands kind of using lasers and different little tiny flashlights where you can take off the end and put either a nugget or a solid piece of Shungite on the end of the battery, and if the flashlight still turns on, you know it conducted electricity. And again, no other substance, yes, metals will do this, but they're refined. You don't just grab, a chunk of metal off of ore, it would be called. So that's one way you can test Shungite, is again on your cell phone or any touchpad surface, or in between a little flashlight or laser pointer.
So having it in your environment, of course, is going to be great. Having it, we all have Wi-Fi, our neighbors have Wi-Fi, all these electronics and all these things that are just not good for our bodies. It's like, no wonder a lot of people are hypersensitive, but they just aren't aware that they are hypersensitive. They just think they have anxiety, and they have no idea why they have anxiety. It's like, well, what is our environment doing to us, and what is it that we're feeling that we can't really explain, because it's just normal now for us to all have LED lights and everybody to have smart devices in every room. Our couches now have outlet plugins to charge your phone on, and we're sitting in all this energy, and it's not necessarily good for us, right? It's not compatible with us. So it's great to have these tools that can help attenuate those frequencies, because it's not blocking the frequency. Some people are like, oh, if I put it on my cell phone, is it going to block the signal like a Faraday cage would? But it's not. So
no, it takes the edge off. No, and what she's talking about. So if you aren't familiar, you have stickers. This is a laminated version. Again, Shungite works on the energy and frequency level, so it's not a volume thing. You don't need a big old chunk like that squished between the sticker to work. It's a small amount of the S4 Shungite powder and silver powder we have in there. And you can just slide these stickers in between your phone. If you have what's called an oscilloscope, it's a way of reading frequencies or perceiving them on a screen. There's things called square waves and sine waves. Long story short, if you have Shungite around you, it kind of takes the edge off. So it would be the edge of the frequency, kind of, I guess you'd feel it kind of like that, you'd feel it energetically. It's kind of a harsh feeling. And actually tying into what you were saying, Julissa, benefiting from the feelings or energy you have in Shungite around you, often those energies we feel aren't even ours. We're feeling those anxieties, those depressions, those heavy energies in our environment that's sticking on our auras or biofield. That's what we're perceiving, and we're sitting around feeling we're in angst or, why am I depressed? Why am I all hyper? It's not you, it's the energy in the environment. So again, just have that realization, go, oh, that's not me, because I'm not anxious. I don't know why I feel that way. If you start having thoughts like that, literally hold Shungite or go grab a tree and hug it. That'll make a difference too, earthing or grounding. Move that excess energy off of you. And again, get in the 90%, use your imagination and feelings, decide how you want to be. And then that's how you're going to be. And then those heavy energies or excesses, stresses, will start to dissipate. Then all of a sudden you're a little easier going.
Yeah, so we have so many different amazing products that can help in different ways. Like we even have these little facial rollers that you can use. I'm like, I don't know if my face will turn black. No. No, I think these ones got cleaned pretty well before they were made. But yeah, these are really great, like, or your neck.
Those are unique ones, if you don't mind.
Copper.
Yeah, well, that too, and the copper, or that, and the fact that it's not just, so for muscles, of course, these facial or muscle rollers, you would call them, come in different types. Some are crystal ones you can program. This one, of course, helps you physically move energies or break up, tension and stuff. But of course, Orgone energy, chi, prana, the invisible energy around us, that's where Shungite comes in. So this is an energy device, not just a physical one like some of the others. But being of Shungite, it affects those etheric energies or Orgone energy. So yes, you can kind of think of it as like an aura, face, what do they call them, face rollers or something?
Yeah, those are mainly found like in spas or like a lot of women, I guess, would know a little bit more about these, like kind of like the gua shas and stuff. But yeah, you can use their facial rollers. But I'm like, I'm over here using it on my back, not on my neck, and just moving the energy when I need to. But like you were saying, the Shungite rubber is also great at like, if you're having back pain, that you can put it like, it sticks a little bit to you, so it's easier to use. But we also have like Shungite buttons that we've made, so you can sew them into clothes. Like my kids, they don't like to wear a necklace, or they'll wear it for a couple minutes and then be done with it. So it's like, okay, how can I get this around them, because I know it's helpful and they know it's also helpful, but they're just like not wanting to wear something or running around being kids. So I'm like, okay, well, what else can we try to get it in their environment? And it's around their school too, so make sure to get it around them.
Yeah, part of the Shungite Grid. And if you have Shungite, when we referenced Shungite Grid earlier too, the Shungite Grid is just an etheric or imaginary, which means it's real. Again, grid or map. So if you own Shungite, it can be in nugget form, it can be any of these devices, powder, whatnot, meaning you're an entity holding an energy device in a space and time, and you can think etherically, if you were like seeing this on a two-dimensional monitor or a piece of paper or something, it would connect in grid lines. So we're all connected, not that it has to form a specific shape, but we are all connected. And if you talk physics, they're going to call it quantum entanglement. Metaphysics, we're all connected is another term they'll describe it as. But each of these Shungites on, again, what we were talking about is called the Shungite Grid, do connect and keep energy moving and keep a loving environment. So people around the planet are throwing Shungite nuggets in waterways, streams, creeks, rivers, waterfalls, all sorts of places, through deserts. It doesn't have to be in the water. It can be in just an environment. So we've all been in environments or places or walked into a building where we just felt the tension, the heavy energies, but you don't see them, but you know they're there because you can feel them. So that's where the benefit of Shungite comes in. If you're wearing it in one form or another, have it with you, those energies start to dissipate because we're energy beings in an energy environment. So everything's energy. Again, this is one of the tools that have a huge effect on that.
But play around with your imagination and see what calls to you. It's easy to wear like a necklace or a bracelet, but some people might be a little bit more woo and like, oh, maybe they use salt and whatever, like they're drawing boundaries or they're clearing their tools or crystals in salt, or using sage and smudging. So we have a little aura healing pack that has a piece of shungite and a little silver bar with salt and sage that you can also carry in your pocket if you use those tools and you're aware of them and you're using them together, or even if you're not aware of how people use those tools. It's still great to have in your environment. And you want to talk more about that?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, we don't keep any secrets. What do we call that? The little aura healing pouch. And it can be, I mean, I usually have the same items in here. It's not too dissimilar, so just in a little pouch. We're talking about things, again, white sage. So we share the ingredients, so you can make your own at home. You don't have to have ours, so we're showing you how you can do it. Pink Himalayan salt can also be swapped out for Epsom salt or Dead Sea salt, something like that. A little Shungite nugget, and yes, hard to see, but a little tiny silver bar. All of these combined are frequency devices. Because of course salt is a crystalline substance like water, like crystals, holds energy, gathers energy. Sage, similar to palo santo and other ones, move energy or dissipate it. Same with Shungite, will earth or ground you. And then again, for that physical body or energy field, silver is again one of those biocompatible frequencies, so it ties in that. So long story short, you have an energy moving and clearing device, and you don't have to mix these packets because it's not something you have to blend. They work on the frequency level. So pretty much you can, and modify this recipe if you feel like you want to add some rose quartz to it or something else, or whatever it is. Put them in a pouch, have it in your energy field or aura, and it will heal you as kind of think like an energy filter. So it's in your auric field, even being this close to you, where you can wear it in the pouch. And as your energy moves through it, again, it gets cleansed or moved and restructured. And with the addition of the little silver bar, you can start healing yourself, have an effect on viruses, bacteria, things, and you don't have to eat it. I'm talking about just being in the frequency field of it and being aware that you can do that.
So you were saying that salt absorbs too, but with it being next to the shungite and the silver, the shungite's also always clearing, so it's not, if you're holding that pouch, it's not going to be holding or absorbing those energies. But salt, there's been studies of people that live like on the coast or on the beach, and it's like they don't really have too many like sinus issues or lung issues because the fresh salt water is helping to clear that out. So we used to have a salt cabin, and there's like a lot of benefits with salt, helping to clear out any buildup or mucus in your lungs, and so a lot of benefits with salt and using it like in your bath. We don't bring up any bath salt that we have with Shungite.
And that's just the physical level. So also the etheric or energy level, salt moves those electrons, it gets stuff moving, as you mentioned, the bath. So you can, again, make your own, but this is our version of a pink Himalayan Shungite soap. So it's all organic, just again, pink Himalayan salt, Shungite powder, and you can do this in different ways. We have skin balms. It's all, again, about getting Shungite around your physical body or energy body. So in this case, salt bath, these are what I use. You can use it and then tie in your imagination and just think your earthing or grounding is what it is, and you move those excess electrons. Or if you're not in a bath or shower and you have muscle cramps, because that happens too, or any kind of physical issue, and you want that energy moving so you heal yourself, another convenient way, it looks like a big chapstick tube, but it's a skin balm version we have with Shungite silver. You can draw it, so if I have an arm issue, like muscle issues, I'm healing from something, I can literally draw this on there, and it moves that energy so you heal yourself. Or if you're doing what's maybe sometimes termed chakra activation, well, draw energy lines on your body or around your third eye, and depending on your understanding, they're energy devices to help you move energy. And so there's lots of ways.
Did anybody have any questions before? No? Well, I want to talk a little bit about the bees again, because I don't think a lot of people know, like when you're recording them after so I think you first started with the Shungite nuggets on the beehive, and you watch the bees like rub up against it. What they're doing is they're collecting the Shungite powder on their legs, and they go out and pollinate, and while they're doing that, then the Shungite is moving with them.
Yeah, I can describe that a little bit too. What she's talking about, so we're organic beekeepers, so I'm big time anti-chemical, and that can also be called chemical-free or treatment-free beekeeping. So no, there's different types of acid strips they'll put on beehives to get rid of mites and different pests. Well, maybe in unaware, I realized that, well, that stuff, whatever type of chemical or treatment is being put on these beehives, is getting into the open honeycombs. And that's getting in the honey, because in the honeycomb, think of it just a bunch of open jars of honey in essence, that those fumes and or particles are getting into, and then the bees are capping it, and we're all buying it and eating it. Well, that's not organic as far as I'm concerned. So knowing that, so what I did was, initially I'll bring it back to what Julissa was talking about. I started with the nuggets because I realized the earthing energy movement, bees being, of course, highly energetic beings. It's a tough thing to say, but they actually perceive what we call ley lines or frequency lines in the air and in the environment. And that's a lot of the issue with what's called colony collapse disorder, CCD. The harmful frequencies and chemicals in our environment, be it cell phones or different toxins, glyphosate, Roundup, weed killer, all those type of things, kind of muck with the bees' navigation system so they don't perceive the energy lines and they get lost while they're out foraging and they don't make it home to the beehive in time for night, and then they basically freeze out there, and that's called colony collapse disorder. There's no bees at the hive in the morning when the beekeeper goes out, and the beekeepers throw their arms up. What's happening? The bees are getting lost. Their signposts are gone. You can describe it different ways. So when I realized that, I took the Shungite nuggets, and this video is, again, referencing the Shungite FAQ page on our site. I've now extended it to a Shungite beehives page, and in there's an actual video showing the first introduction of Shungite nuggets to beehives, because we're the first on the planet to do that. And I took 3 nuggets, sat them at the entrance, and I didn't tell the bees what to do. It's not like they'd listen to me anyway. And they all, about 95%, this again can be viewed on the video, ran over or flew over to the Shungite nuggets and started crawling all around them, earthing or grounding. And the same thing happens to cats, dogs, birds, reptiles. Pick your critter, they're going to be led to Shungite, including us humans. It's an energy thing, you're drawn to it. So again, the bees being highly sensitive energetically and perceiving frequencies, such as many or some of us do, they knew it was a good thing. So the bees, and they've never stopped since, anytime there's nuggets on the beehive, the bees will go to it, walk all around it, and then fly away. And as Julissa mentioned, in the first year, I had larger nuggets, where the bees were so used to being on the Shungite nuggets, they actually wore them down into little peaks, so they look like mountains. Basically, the bees would get on it, the Shungite finer particles, and I'm just kind of showing you the Shungite powder here, will, due to the negative electron charge on their legs, stick to their legs. So now, in essence, the bees have little Shungite pendants on them, and while they're out foraging and collecting and pollinating, Shungite's coming off, landing on the plants, the flowers, getting between the beehives and wherever they go, and bees will go 7 miles from their hive to pollinate. 7 miles for a little inch-sized critter, and they'll do that every day, and Shungite's falling off of them. So yes, they're adding to the Shungite grid, and as I mentioned earlier, scientifically proven, Shungite will have an effect, a huge effect on Roundup weed killer, radiation particles, all that stuff from Fukushima that Julissa also mentioned that's coming over this way, and it is. So the bees are hooking us up as well, in addition to earthing and grounding themselves. So now the bees are finding themselves home. We have no colony collapse disorder after working with Shungite and the bees. And we use the nuggets again. The powder we'll put in a mix of paint and then paint the beehive. And then also additionally put the powder in little trays at the entrance, so the bees actually walk through it and then they'll take those particles out. And also, a little side note for beekeepers, be cautious though, because when you use the Shungite powder, what we found was it tends to set, and I mean this in kind of a good way, to get the bees to start generating queen bees. So if you better be ready for splits or expanding your beehives when you use the powder, because it really has an effect on the bees. They're going to generate queens and they're going to supersede you or cause you to split your beehives, if you know what I'm talking about. So great results with that, in lots of ways.
Yeah, and gardens are flourishing. I know once I introduced it to my garden, I was like, whoa, things are like blossoming and doing really well. I've always had, like where I'm at, the dirt is terrible. It's just a bunch of clay. So we had to build garden beds and bring in a bunch of dirt and just like always having to adjust it. But once I brought in, introduced Shungite to it, I'm like, wow, it's actually finding its own balance, and I'm not having to add as much like fertilizer or whatever, and yeah, doing really well. So
Yeah, do your own studies at home, anybody. Take a Shungite nugget, toss it in a plant, or something like that. Germinate some seeds. You'll see the difference in it, and it's phenomenal. It's not like, oh, I can kind of tell the difference. No, it's going to be off the charts. And that can be, you don't have to start from that germination stage. Do it in a house plant you have now. Somewhere, put it in a tree. We've done it on, I think it was a willow tree we had in Darrington. And it was over 100 years old. The thing started regenerating again. I mean, it's a huge effect on any living entity, wherever you put Shungite.
So it doesn't have, there's one thing that it didn't help quite with. So I have this apple tree that we've never been able to eat the apples from. So the apple tree is still doing great, but so are the bugs that are eating them. So I'm like, if it doesn't get rid of the bugs, it's not killing off things. It's helping.
It's
everything.
beneficial, whether we see it as beneficial or not.
Yeah.
That's a good point. There's lots of different ways we're using Shungite. Again, it's going to be, again, for those watching on video, it's hard to see these, but Orgone devices or energy devices. This one's a little hexagon shape, little love heart in the back there. Lots of ingredients in here, but it is an energy device with Shungite. So you would place these, or you could make them and put them in an environment. And what it does is, well, again, move the energy and even it out. And not dissimilar are these, like here's a Shungite sphere with a copper tree wrapped on top. So now we've turned the Shungite sphere into an energy device, kind of like an etheric fan. It's copper moves energy as well, Orgone energy, hence and on video again you can maybe see we have some copper pyramids behind us that are free for use in mystical wares, but there's something to copper as far as moving energies. So grabbing onto the energies, kind of grounding it out on the Shungite is one way, and it's kind of in a cool form here. So it's one neat way to do it. Are there other products?
Well, yeah. We've just had a lot of fun creating different things. So Derek has these, the hexagon organite device, and the ingredients that he started and used was of course the Shungite silver powder in resin, but there's also tiger's eye, well, Shungite nugget, of course, gold in here, and
the tiger's eye and the copper.
And the copper, yeah. So the ingredients that did you want to explain why you use those ones? Like why the tiger's eye?
Yeah, I can get into some of that. And then again, energy device, or we like to term it a recipe, meaning you can modify the recipe. So in here, recipe, take something out. If you don't like it, add something if you're intuitively led to. But this ties back into the hexagon shape again, the same shape that, again, the bees put their honey in for a reason, holds energy. So it's something to that shape. And then you're not going to be able to see it again on the back, but there's a little wooden heart that says love, which adds the frequency of love to it. It's also can be translated into the number, which is 0.1 hertz in that frequency range of love. So that's why that's in there. There's tiger's eye, the rock. Kind of think an earthing or grounding frequency, kind of tying it into the 3D. And then the copper we've discussed moves energy as well, the Shungite nugget. So the blend of these different ingredients that are within this Orgone device or energy device are one blend or recipe that are compatible with physical bodies and grounding. That's why I kind of came up with that one. But again, I always describe it different ways, saying, hey, it's a recipe, modify it. Do what you want in there.
Yeah, with the tiger's eye in there. So for me, tiger's eye, it's the solar plexus chakra, or it's strength, courage, and just of course adding love energy to that. So that's how I was like, oh, it's interesting to see what ingredients people put in there and why it's added in there. But so I just made these little devices, and they're a little resin heart shape, but it does still have the Shungite silver powder in here. It's just not as much to make it black, but it is still in there. So it has a silver love infinity charm and a little rosebud copper filings, and also has rose quartz powder that you can't see because it's opaque, so it's kind of see-through, but it's at the bottom in there. And yeah, I chose those of course because love is kind of, it says love and infinite love with the infinity symbol, and roses are known for love frequency, and then of course rose quartz is also that love frequency, so very loving. And then a heart, of course, love.
Yeah, and it matters tying all those things in together. So her intentions, of course, programming that as well, and having all that together is, again, you can translate to infinite love sort of thing. And I developed these are Orgone devices too. They're little half spheres, different size. There's a lot going on inside, but no magnets. And I'm only showing this on video because I did show a couple individuals that are here in person during this class. Get to hold them. And I developed them so that you could feel, again, I know it's lost on, you're gonna probably perceive something over video when I hold these near each other just to make you aware of that and or turn them towards you. But you actually feel, so it'd be the difference if you had a couple of magnets in your hand on the inverse poles, north and south, you'd feel that push or pull depending on the way you had them. The same thing happens here, just on a more subtle level, but it is one of the ways we managed to get that actual Orgone feeling on devices like this so you can actually perceive it on a physical level and not just, have to keep it in your imagination. There's other devices. Again, once you start stacking ingredients like the coppers, the shungites, the silvers, or different things, and in this case, just a really cool, I'll just loosely call a Shungite selenite wand, but it's that and more. And this was done by local artists as well. We've talked about him a couple times on podcasts. He's actually in here with us tonight too. And this is, again, copper, so really cool looks like a little dream catcher, hard to see on video, I know, but different stuff going on, and this being selenite, and it could have been crystal, but in this case we chose selenite, it's a programmable substance or item or mineral, and with shungite on the top. So there's a lot going on this, but again, it's another type of energy device. It can look really cool, kind of like a wand, or they can be crazy little half spheres and still work energies.
So with some of these devices like this, like when I made this, I think people would probably think, oh, like a romantic love. We have Valentine's Day coming up here soon. I'm like, no, it's just love. It's unconditional love. It's not it's not a romantic love. It's just love. So if you wanted to send it out romantically, it's that too, but that's not why I had created that. But we also made these other fun little devices with Sasquatch in there, and Sasquatch, he's a healer, or they are healers, and also known as Bigfoot, so I wanted to make something fun and give thanks for all the times that Sasquatch and Bigfoot has helped us out around here.
And we're showing you all this stuff too, because you can all do these at home. You don't have to have our versions. I told you what was in the soap, tell me what's in everything here. Make your own if you want, and get creative. Even the Sasquatch Shungite Orgone devices, and again, you're not gonna see it on video, but there's a little 1-inch Sasquatch trucking around in there with a bunch of rocks and crystals, and I'm going to do it carefully, but they're secure. On the bottom, you're going to see that copper, the organic beeswax, the love heart. So again, that blend or layering of organic materials and metals is what generates the Orgone or pushing or pulling of the energy. And then when you're working into a device, so it can be a really cool looking device, you're adding those other frequencies. So this one would connect to, you can loosely say nature and or of course the Sasquatch people, and there are people as Julissa was talking about. So that's one example. You could put a little dragon in there or whatever you're led to do. Get creative, but they are an energy device, so you can make it a little more fun rather than, just a flat black looking thing like this. A lot of fun to play with though.
Yeah, but you also have these chakra orgonite devices, specifically for different chakras, but when you made that, so why'd you make it?
Well, because some people, so we are talking about, so what we're looking at here is just a little glass jar with a cork, of course, and in here's layers again of metals or organic devices and ingredients. This one is palo santo, organic beeswax. This particular one, and I do them in different colors over there, are your chakra colors, your blues, reds, oranges, all those different frequencies. So this one will tend to align with the color frequencies, and there's different blues, think throat chakra to your third eye or whatnot, and I make red versions. But they're programmable and they're completely clearable because there is shungite in there. So meaning if you're wanting to work on a particular chakra, this is why I made that. Somebody asked, well, I want to ground myself, so I made a red version. And then they wanted every chakra version. So we got into different ones. But again, you can get creative because colors are a frequency too. So you can do a whole lot with them.
Yeah, and if you're here local to us, we have an Orgonite candle making station where you can make your own and have fun with the ingredients that we have. But organic beeswax is what's holding them together, and all the ingredients matter. So
Yeah, all natural, so we use nothing artificial. And again, you want to make an actual orgone, and sometimes we call it orgonite devices. I know that term was trademarked. But it's an energy device, so you want different layers and frequencies within those containers. And this isn't too different from these. So again, you can use a plastic resin, or we like the natural aspect of the beeswax, and it's fun to make over here in our Orgone station as well, by pouring the beeswax and melting it and working in things like palo santo. So this is just a type of wood and or white sage for smudging, and these are the same ingredients we talked about in the Aura Healing Pack, which is an energy device, and or that Orgone device, which moves energies is what it does. So even things, because this class is on Shungite energy devices, not just Shungite. So these are energy devices too, smudge sticks, white sage, palo santo, and there's different types. They'll move the energy, but use your intention to reprogram that energy. So if it feels like heavy energy and you just lighten your smudge stick, I wouldn't light the whole thing of this, even this tiny guy, because you'll smoke yourself out of a room. Yank off a little leaf of this white sage, light it, and walk around with it. And then have that happy thought or feeling. Sounds corny, but it matters. And that frequency is what you'll then be putting in the place of what you just kind of cleared out of there. That's why they call it clearing.
So we also have this Diatomaceous Earth and Shungite blend. You can add to your pet food, or apply to their skin or fur. Diatomaceous Earth, what's that used for?
Yeah, Diatomaceous Earth, there's different versions of it. It's called DE as well. It's a tough thing to say, so hopefully this comes across on the audio. Diatomaceous Earth. So it's actually fossilized little critters from a long time ago. I might have found it, but you can look it up later if you want. But what you usually use it for is, and there's different versions I was going to get into, some for construction. We use a food grade version, so it's refined and purified. And only about half of this is the Diatomaceous Earth, which is actually a gray powder. The rest is Shungite powder that we blended. And you would pour it on your animals topically, for topical use, on the animal's fur or whatnot, and it gets rid of worms, fleas, ticks, things like that. Basically, it's the Diatomaceous, the DE version portion in here has sharp edges to it. So when it gets on these little parasites, it cuts them and gets rid of them. And it can be fed internally to the animals as well. So you would use it about like, and this is a huge amount. So you would sprinkle it on like salt on your food, if we're talking about the cat food. So if your dog or cat or whatever critter has worms or intestinal issues, because Shungite has a big effect on that too, I would sprinkle a little bit of that on there. But also this same jar, and you can, I told you what's in here, just Shungite powder and Diatomaceous Earth, food grade, so you can make your own, put it in your plants as well. It's gonna have the benefit, it'll get rid of some of the pests in there, but even more so, the Shungite powder will boost your plants. It's gonna go tenfold, and sometimes more than that, when you put the powder on your plants. And or, same thing, the same powder, use it for gridding. You can walk around, I'm not gonna open it because I'll make a big mess, but there's a little, like an herb or little holes on top, like a salt shaker. So walk around your property and do grid work or energy work, things like that too. So there's lots of uses, even in grouts. We've had new construction here locally where people are building houses and or laying new floors in certain buildings, commercial ones, and they're putting Shungite powder and or nuggets down in the grout, in the concrete, in core drillings they're doing in some cases. To keep the energy moving, because every cohesive, I'll just say thing, and that can be a person, an item, or anything else, it doesn't have to be living, has its own energy field. So, and that means a building as well, because it's now been a cohesive energy, so it's taken form. So a building, a plant, an animal, a person has its own toroidal energy field. So putting Shungite into that field, yes, will clear a building's energy just as quick as wearing it around you will clear a person's energy out. It removes the excess and overage energies, the heavy stuff, the stuff we call stress and anxiety that we all feel. That's why it's a benefit to use it that way. And on your bathtub, so we talk about drinking water. I mean, you can get some of these, be careful, don't put the plastic ones in your water, but the more solid pieces, the nuggets, even the water beads. We have solid Shungite over there off view of Merkabas and pyramids and things like that. We have some of it up here. I mean, you can put those things in your bathtub or your pool or your hot tub. It will structure that water. Because again, your skin, largest organ on your body, it's your third kidney, water's passing and going through it, so it might be a good idea to have Shungite living water around you. And I was just swinging my hands around, I know.
Oh,
I was just looking at, for those that don't know, often I'm worried about my hands going off camera.
Yeah, good thing the water's back there.
Yeah. So.
So I wanted to get like shower heads with that you can put not filters. Well, no, they do have some with filters.
The hollow shower heads.
Yeah, that you can put beads in, because I think they're using like some sort of ceramic beads in there. But I was like, oh, you
yes,
could put Shungite in there. That'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
Because I know that like after I shower, I'm like the water, I know it's not filtered that I'm using for my shower head. So I'm like, oh, I feel like I could definitely try to do something with that.
You can. She's talking about basically a hollowed out shower head you can put nuggets in. But if you don't have that, you've already got your favorite shower head that's not hollowed out, doesn't mean you have to replace it. Get 3 nuggets. There's of course a whole nother talk, but there's something to 3, which is again why she brought up here using 3 beads. You can secure these on however you can to your faucet heads as well, your shower heads, whatever. And it doesn't have to be, yes, it can be hanging in the water, but remember it's an energy device. It can be in the energy field of the water and still have an effect. So literally, if you have so let's imagine this little tiny, you can see it's an actual little cup or bowl. Let's say this was your little tiny pet food bowl. You could actually put the Shungite under it and it's still going to structure the water inside. Now, if you can, put it in there, but you don't have to because it's all frequency. So having it in the energy environment does make a difference too.
Yeah, get creative though, because some people, I guess, are maybe a little off put by putting rocks in their water. Understandable. But some people get a score sticker and put it on their water bottle, or sometimes people can't wear jewelry or anything with whatever job it is that they're having to do, and they put a laminated sticker in their shoe. So it's a good idea to put it like on your left side. Well, why your left side? So it can be either side, but usually, or for a lot of people, their left side is like the receiving and the right side is the sending, so the way the energy moves. So that's another idea.
That's good. And if you're intuitively led to switch shoes, do it. There's probably a reason for it. But have it in your, and also actually on this one, so if you're going to do what she was mentioning as far as in your shoe, make sure you get the laminated version or laminate them yourself and put it under your insole. So otherwise you're going to have some issues with your socks, and I tried that. But no, that's a good idea too. And then Shungite on any electronic device, regardless if it's a little thin sticker that you can barely see or some of these bigger pieces. Having Shungite on your electronics is a good idea because they're non-biocompatible frequencies. So I'm talking your Wi-Fi router, your Xboxes, your game systems, especially your, I don't know if too many of us have them anymore, but your cordless phones that come with those little docking stations. Those are horrible energies. Unplug those. Those are worse than your Wi-Fi router. So if we even have those anymore, get rid of them if you can. But definitely unplug that stuff at nighttime. Regardless if you have Shungite on it or not, I unplug my Wi-Fi router at night, and if I had a cordless phone, that would be, I'm not talking about a cell phone, I'm talking about those old cordless phones that kind of stand up in the holders there. Terrible, the frequencies and energies coming off of those are just very bad. So unplug those when you can at night for that about a third of your life when you're sleeping, 8-ish hours, and that's when you're rebuilding your aura anyway. So I also, when I'm doing that, sleeping, I have a piece of Shungite rubber under the sheet on my mattress. So, and usually, if I have an issue, let's say a leg issue, well then I'll put it a little bit lower in the mattress, or maybe around my heart chakra if you want to move energies, or if you have the wherewithal, maybe Shungite rubber or wear a pendant around your head or torso at night. Think of your dreams and energy and things that they can have an effect on. Because you're an energy being, you're not just hanging around in your body all night long. There's a lot going on. Totally different topic, but I want to do a quick add-on for those that will pick up on that breadcrumb I'm going to throw out. So you can imagine an etheric version on your spirit body or aura when you're astral projecting or flying around in your dreams. Might be a good idea to imagine yourself wearing a Shungite bracelet or a pendant or something like that, and don't be surprised if you all of a sudden wake up in your dreams and you look down and you realize you're wearing Shungite, and then that's a whole nother story on that one. It's a lot of fun, so it's something to think about because you are an energy being, even if you're flying around at night in astral projection form, however you might term that.
Yeah, get creative with how you use this. So like even those earbuds or AirPods, Bluetooth wireless headsets that we're using is terrible, especially So if you're getting the two, like if you're only wearing one, well, the sound is off because they have a depth. They change to add the depth perception in whatever song or whatever it is that you're listening to. So if you're only listening to one, you won't hear the other part of the music because there's supposed to be two. So with knowing that, so the information's traveling through your head to be able to hear both and play off of each other. So maybe add a little bit of Shungite paint on there, and so have an effect on that.
Yeah, that Shungite paint's a good idea. We sell it online. You can make your own. I'll tell you, make Shungite paint. I would suggest using the Shungite S4 powder, so the Shungite and silver blend powder, mixing in paint, and you can get a little container of fingernail polish, and that's what we sell it online, an empty one, and then or add it to whatever paint you want, and then just dab a little drop on your electronic devices that are maybe too small for things like stickers, or you can't conveniently put a nugget on it or something like that. So that's where the paint comes in handy too. Yeah, looking around, you're like, what have we not talked about up here? And for those, at least joining us here in person, if there's any questions, let us know. Just raise your hand and we'll reiterate the question. But it is energy devices and things, so not just Shungite. And we want to show you all of these because Shungite is one of the best energy devices there are and can be used in so many ways. And you can do it at home. That's why we described it. But even things like, and this is just a metal one, a little, probably copper or brass, a pendulum. It's an energy device too. Often we use them, we'll hold them up, and then you'll ask a certain question, and all of a sudden you'll see it spinning one way or another. Then you can, again, without moving your hand, and stop. So it's following Orgone energy, and that probably none of it came through on video, who knows. But they'll move, and what I'm getting at here, why I grabbed this guy, because we're energy beings, so you have an aura or energy field around you, things called chakras, and there's a lot more than the 7 we talk about. But if you realize you have something called a heart chakra, well, that's your love center, and you actually exist in there as an entity. We're sparks of light, and we're not in this cholesterol sac we call a brain. We're down here in our hearts, in the heart field. That's where we exist. That's where we're kind of driving this vehicle we call a body. Knowing that, well, that's the love field and frequency field. So if you're working an energy device, it might be a good idea to hold that in alignment, if I can turn sideways here for the video, with your heart chakra. Not maybe lower, as some of us do when we're at tables like this. Think root chakra. All of those energy things make a difference. Even if you're in a bad mood and you're using an energy device, well, that makes a difference. Well, so let's expand our understanding. So your chakras or energy fields will have an effect on when you're trying to communicate, regardless if it's a pendulum or you're holding some other kind of energy device. It makes a difference. That's why I brought that up.
So the honey is, my daughter, she got stung by a bee a couple of years ago before I had really any Shungite stuff. So she stepped on a bee and her toe, as quickly as we could, we put baking soda paste on there, and her toe was still pretty swollen for a couple of days, but also the skin started peeling off where it swelled, and she ended up getting an ingrown toenail and all these issues, and I was like, oh man, that sucked. But I had heard someone talk about putting honey on a bee sting and how it took the sting away really quickly. And so my daughter did it again. I think it was the same toe, but it happened at home, so I had honey, and I was I knew exactly where it was at, and I ran, got the honey, put it on her toe, and she was screaming when it happened, and then when I put it on her toe, and so I put it on burns on myself before the honey, and it does sting really bad, when you put the honey on at first, but then it stops quickly. And so my daughter, it healed very quickly, and she was running around that same day. And I kept trying to get her to stop running. I'm no, just sit down, let it heal, let it rest. Good luck with kids, making them stop what they're doing. But I was wow, that happened super fast. So the combination of the honey and the Shungite really has a great effect on burns, on injuries, on cuts, and the healing effect.
Yeah, any open wound, of course, organic, raw, unpasteurized honey is, again, the best antibiotic. And then it gets kind of kicked up with the addition. And we do enhance this Shungite, the organic raw honey, with fine Shungite powder, which does add the darker blend to it. So when you're talking Shungite honey, and you can make you can make your own at home as well. Use organic honey. I would suggest no plastic bare jars that you may find in Walmart and other places. There's all kinds of chemicals in those, of course. So that's why we use glass, and again, the hexagon shape, and then a small amount. So this is an energy supplement. It's not, you don't want to, you can, but I wouldn't necessarily lather your toast with it. I would kind of take this jar, maybe tap your finger in it, and put it under your tongue as an energy supplement. And then it'll absorb. There's lots of blood veins and things under your tongue. So physically, yes, the good stuff from the honey will get in there. But on the energetic level, hence the Shungite tie-in, you have a chakra point that's not often talked about under your tongue. And then one way to activate it, if you're aware, and you want to boost that chakra or a sense, because chakras can be thought of as your metaphysical senses. You have physical senses, sight, taste, touch, smell, sound. Chakras are metaphysical ones. So if you touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you've made a connection there on the metaphysical or etheric level. So start doing your manifesting, as many of you will know it then, and you're going to have a little extra boost, especially if you took the time to add the energy supplement, as I'll call it, Shungite in there. And then physically, like Julissa was talking about, yeah, lather that stuff in open wounds. Organic honey kills so many viruses and bacteria, from SARS to MRSA to all kinds of crazy stuff and other things I'm not going to mention right now that we're dealing with. And that's raw honey. So yeah, you can put the raw honey in there and you're going to heal hundreds of times faster. That's all science has well been proven. And then on the metaphysical, because that's healing you 10% physical. You're 9% metaphysical or energy. That's why that's so important, because then you're tying in the Shungite. And as we've already mentioned, use your imagination and feelings while you're using an energy device like that, and you're going to have a whole lot stronger effect on all levels.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was making cookies one day for here, and I ended up burning myself. And I was like, oh, I'm getting the cookies out of the oven, and I grabbed Shungite honey, put it on there, and like I said, it burns really bad if putting it on a burn. I don't know why, but it like burned more when I put the honey on there. But then it healed really quickly, and I didn't even get a scar from it, which I should have had a scar from the burn. So
I've done that several times. Other family members have it as well. Oh yeah, it's remarkable stuff.
Yeah.
And you can use the Shungite honey too, so not just under your tongue or whatever. It can be it can be blended into your coffees, your teas, things like that as well if you're led to. I wouldn't think it was a sweetener. Yes, it's sweet because it's a honey, but it's an energy supplement or a booster. So you see it like that, and then you just need a small amount. So you don't need again to taste the sweetness. Use some other honey to get the sweetness if that's what you want. But the Shungite for the energy aspect of it. I'm not sure about anything maybe we didn't cover up here. Were there any questions in the audience in here? No. We do, I was going to mention, again, copper. So when we're talking energy devices, there's different ingredients and things. So this is a piece of copper that's wound to a certain frequency. And the frequency, you can tell from just the distance between the copper here and the way it's wound. Again, that's a whole other class. But when you get items like this integrated into, maybe you laid a small one of these in the mold before you pour the resin or things. Again, it starts a spin of energy. So expand your understanding online. And there's lots of places, watch podcasts, videos, do your research. Again, we're not honing in on one specific energy device tonight. We're just kind of going all over the place. So, throwing breadcrumbs out there. Maybe you'll have an aha moment to where you go, oh, I didn't realize I could do that. Or maybe I didn't know that crazy stuff called Shungite can go in a plant. It can. And also use the same Shungite for other energy devices like crystals. This is just a crystal cluster I grabbed off the shelf here at Mystical Wares. But any crystal, quartz, amethyst, other types, are programmable and they hold energies. So then you'd want crystals around Shungite. And we have things like Shungite tile that you can't see, they're off camera here. Again, the Shungite rubber, you can put your crystals or your other rocks and stuff on it, and it will clear them out or ground them. So often they're told, put your crystals out in the sun or go bury them for a day or something like that. There's lots of ways of moving energy, but just having Shungite near the crystals will move that energy or clear them off.
Did we talk a little bit about where we can put the magnets?
Nope.
Okay.
I just moved by those really quickly. The Shungite magnets, yeah, if you can hold it. Yeah. So Shungite resin magnet, that one's in the shape of a heart, and there's a little earth magnet inside of there. But we have those same magnets in little dog, cat forms, just different shapes and sizes. The shape doesn't really matter so much. It's the resin that has the shungite and the silver powder within it, and these are good for use on your refrigerators, your vehicle, any device. So example, like your car, there's a resistance, this invisible energy around us, again, it's called Orgone energy, and that's the resistance a car's motor has to push through, and that's where it gets its horsepower. So it's fighting that. So if you lessen that resistance, and one way to do it is by adding Orgone devices, and in this case a magnet, to your car, the motor has less physical Orgone resistance, so it runs smoother, and you literally save gas mileage. Sounds crazy as heck. We didn't come up with this. Actually, it was other customers that did it initially with Shungite themselves, and then it went from there. And then we developed, well, what's a good way to get them to stick to metal, hence the magnet resin. Put it on your refrigerator. Check within a day, though, if you do put one of these magnets, I didn't say you had to throw 20 of them at it, put it on your fridge, and that motor, the compressor that keeps the coldness in your fridge or freezer, less resistance, it's going to work better. You're going to need to turn down your fridge or freezer is what I'm telling you. And almost every single person that I've talked to about this has had to do the same. So yeah, your vegetables are going to start freezing in the drawer after you add the Shungite magnet to it, so then just adjust accordingly. But you'll see 3D or physical manifestations overnight on things like that. And then again, like Julissa said, your water will taste different. Throw nuggets in your animals' water. They're going to go drink twice as much, and you're not, convincing them of any tricks.
But with your car, so for me personally, I'd always get kind of car sick, like if I was traveling a distance, not if I was a passenger. If I was a driver, it's another thing, but as a passenger, so I always hated road trips. Still kind of do, but I'd always get sick, and I was like, I just thought it was a motion sickness type thing. I don't know. But once I learned about Shungite and I put this on my car, I put it under the driver's seat, or the bar, because you need to be able to put it on metal. So you can adjust your seat, but I was like, I'm not finding myself sick while I'm in there. Well, why is it that I was finding myself sick if it's not a motion sick? Could that have an effect on the motion sickness thing? Okay, well, we have our devices on us in our cars. We have these radios in our cars. We have satellite radio. We have all the stuff that we're traveling through. We have, go down the I-5 corridor, you have all these things zapping you and all these towers that you're driving by that everything's looking for a signal and constantly going back and forth that you are sitting in. So being able to put this on your body helps, but also getting it in your car and having that energy being moved throughout your car will help.
Well, that's a good idea. I mean, we talked earlier about each item. Again, I don't care if it's a vehicle, us, or this fountain behind us here. It has its own energy field. So you can think of kind of a car, you're in different energy fields, kind of going like this. Well, you can kind of get nauseous, energetically have an effect. So again, it evens things out. It's tough things to talk about because we don't have the terms here, because it's, again, metaphysical. So, but it does. It makes you feel better. It moves those energies, the tensions, the excesses, I like to term it. So you even out. You feel better.
Yeah, but traveling in general, like our feet aren't on the ground anymore. So we're going all these different places all the time. We're not grounded. So this is helping us to ground.
And then I'm sure there's, again, you don't need to clear Shungite. It does that all on its own. It's continually moving energy. So the same thing with the Shungite rubber, the skin balms, or lip balms. We have other versions. There's even Shungite shampoos, different ways of getting Shungite around you to move that energy field. So then it's not that it's a magic black rock that's healing you. No, it's a kind of, I'm having fun with a magic black rock that helps you heal yourself is what it does. Because we're all healers, we're all energy workers, whether we call ourselves that or not. And then getting in the right frame of mind and energies, you can heal yourself. And it can be miraculous sometimes too. We have just a few more minutes, 3 or 4, before I go over there and hopefully see that we're still on air on YouTube. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Our Shungite is just, we are telling you
be aware of it. So an individual referencing, for example, like Shungite bracelet. If they don't know about this, this energy black rock made of carbon kind of thing, they're still going to feel it regardless when they get it around them. They'll just all of a sudden feel that whoosh of energy or calmness. Everybody perceives energy a little bit differently, but they're going to feel it because we are all energy beings, and you don't have to have a huge understanding. But you can benefit more, which is why this class is happening. So maybe somebody listening thought, well, wait, of course, I have a Shungite, coated little bowl. I want to affect energies. Well, and I'm being forced to take maybe prescription pills for whatever ailment I'm having right now. I'd probably suggest putting those little pills or vitamins or prescription drugs in the Shungite environment. Use what's called homeopathy, your love, your intentions, program it and say, nope, this is good for me, I love it. Well, it sounds corny, but it will literally happen as well. And again, if you want to have an effect on your overall larger recipe meal, use the addition of honey, a few drops in there on the bigger mix. And you don't have to have so much again where you taste it. Look at it as an energy supplement. So there's different uses for it. And your animals will line up for that stuff too if you give it to them.
And really quickly, so honey does not mold.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've added the Shungite powder to it, and it does crystallize, and so it's not mold, it's just that crystallizing.
Yeah, raw organic honey won't mold. That's what it actually gets rid of. So she's referencing, so if we open a jar of our Shungite honey, the discoloration looks like a hue of gray or light blue. It's just the differentiation between the Shungite nuggets and the honey and coloration. It hasn't gone bad or anything like that. Honey lasts literally forever. Raw organic honey does. It's been found over 8,000 years old. I think it was packed inside of a mummy, and they said it was still edible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the guy trying it, but at least that honey.
Yeah.
But yeah, honey doesn't go bad. No, it's good stuff. Lasts forever. And then same with water. So use your again, imagination on this molecular shape, and this is a quick tie back into what we talked about earlier, reference on what we call manifesting down here. So that energetic shape is, again, that molecular shape that's in Shungite that's very programmable. So imagine that shape, imagine yourself or your whole house inside of here, because that container is made of your imagination, so don't limit yourself. And then imagine whatever's inside the way you want it to be. If that's you, you're already healed, a loving person, or whatever you want to get to. If your house or place you're going has heavy energies in it, imagine it without that. And then you're going to have an effect energetically on the environment. So unless you had something else.
No, just check back on our website, mysticalwares.com, for any future classes and events. We have our metaphysical fairs that happen every other weekend. The next fair here isn't until the 29th and 30th, but that'll be great. You can visit our website to see the different vendors that we'll have here. But also, the next classes and next podcasts that are coming up, and we can talk more in depth about woo, and always a lot about Shungite, because this is a big reason why I know that I'm here. So
yeah, and hopefully this class goes well and gets put up on YouTube and stays, and you don't have any streaming issues. And if it does seem like it's all working out, we're going to do more classes this way too, so we can share the information and reach a broader audience. So we appreciate you all being here, and thank you very much.
thank you.